Look at the so-called secret Senate health care bill.
The way this bill cuts health care is heartless.
The speech you just heard was about a bill that he hasn't seen.
It's a very, very narrow path, but I think we're going to get there.
We're getting word now that some Democrats even want Nancy Pelosi to step down.
If we are going to win, we have to have new leadership.
You want me to sing my praises? I'm a master legislator. I am a strategic, politically astute leader.
I hope Nancy stays for at least a decade. I think that she is so helpful to us.
I'd like to keep her right where she is because our record is extraordinary against her.
Getting rid of Nancy Pelosi is like treating cancer with a Band-Aid, okay? She is a symptom of the problem, but she is not the problem.
This morning, our commander-in-chief set to sign the VA Accountability Act, making it easier to fire corrupt employees who work for the Department of Veterans Affairs.
I didn't tape, and I don't have any tape, and I didn't tape.
This was a brilliant and important move by the president. The president kept Comey honest.
We know one thing still. James Comey was the leader.
Never too early in the morning for barbecue.
We're going to have ribs for breakfast?
We are, and you're going to love them.
This is a bonus. I didn't even know.
I know.
Brian.
I know. Welcome. Good to have you.
You.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Back from the White House, huh?
That's right. Yesterday I got to interview the president and Melania, the First Lady, so we will have that interview coming up.
That's great.
And
we got
some
great music.
Yeah, it was great. So, and then we have the concert today. It is a wonderful Friday here in New York City.
Of course, yesterday, it was about midday when the draft proposal, the talking points, what the Republicans would like to do with health care was unveiled. And also, at the same time, when you were at the White House, you asked the President and the First Lady a myriad of questions and asked about Nancy Pelosi, too.
That's right, because so many Democrats are now calling for her to step down. So here is a little bit of our interview with the President. We're going to be showing it to you all morning long, but here's some of it. Today, there are 4 senators that said they're not supporting this health care bill, 4 Republican senators. What is your message to them? Because your supporters that voted for you are a little frustrated because you have the White House, you have the House, Republicans have the House and the Senate, but you have these senators that are not on board.
Well, there are also 4 good guys and they're 4 friends of mine, and I think that they'll probably get there. We'll have to see. You know, healthcare is a very difficult situation. If you look, the Clintons tried to get it, and after years and years, they couldn't do it. Obamacare was murder for them to get, and now it's failed. It's virtually out of business. Obamacare is a disaster, and we're trying to do something in a very short period of time. It's interesting, I've been here for only 5 months. People saying, where's the health care? Where's the health care? Well, I've done in 5 months what other people haven't done in years, and it's been, people have worked on health care for many years. It's a very complicated situation from the standpoint you do something that's good for one group but bad for another. It's a very, very narrow path, but I think we're going to get there. We have 4 very good people that, and it's not that they're opposed, they'd like to get certain changes, and we'll see if we can take care of that.
We're getting word now that some Democrats even want Nancy Pelosi to step down. A lot of Republicans think Democrats are in denial. They didn't win these special elections. They don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, they don't have the White House. What do Democrats need to do? Are they in denial, and what do they need to do to get on board?
Well, first of all, I hope she doesn't step down. I think that it would be a very, very sad day for Republicans if she steps down. I'd be very, very disappointed if she did. I'd like to keep her right where she is because our record is extraordinary against her. But we'll see what happens. There has been a lot of talk about her stepping down. We'll have to see what happens. The victory in Atlanta was very big. They spent $30 million. We had a candidate who did a very, very good job. I think I helped a lot. And we had a great candidate. But we were 5-0, as you know, in these special elections. And I think the Democrats thought it would be a lot different than that. 5-0 is that's a big margin. And this last one was very interesting, though, because they put everything into it. They had every consultant. They had agencies, advertising agencies.
Hollywood?
I mean, think of it. Hollywood came out, and in the end, we won quite easily, much, you know, by a bigger margin than anybody would have thought. So they're going to have to do something. I will say this. They are right now obstructionists. All they want to do is try and obstruct. I think they'd do much better as a party if they got along with us, if they called us and said, let's work on health care together, let's work on tax cuts together and tax reform, let's work on infrastructure together, we can do it together. I honestly think they do better at the polls. I think the American public is tired of obstructionists, and I honestly believe that. And when I say that, boy, would the people love to see two parties getting together and coming up with the perfect health care plan, because Obamacare has failed now. It's dead. The insurance companies are all flocking and leaving, and it's a real problem.
Wouldn't that be refreshing if we could all come together?
It'd be so nice.
I know.
And that's the way it should be. And there have been moments in our country's history where that's what happened. And those were the greatest things, whether it was Social Security or Medicare. It was two parties got together and came up with great solutions to problems. I don't think that's going to happen, but that is what should happen.
Everyone's saying, give him a chance. You know, let's all, people are now, it's backfiring on the Democrats because they're saying, just give him a chance. All the nasty rhetoric, all the collusion, all the corruption that hasn't been proven, all the leaks, just give him a chance, you know, so that everyone can work together.
And the health care bill comes out. What are Democrats saying? They're just trashing it. They're saying people are going to die if this becomes law. But what they're not doing is they're not saying, here's how we would fix Obamacare. Right. Because Obamacare is failing, as the president says. That's a point that's not to be disputed. Yes, there are good points of Obamacare. More people are covered. But it's also bankrupting people. Right. It's also bankrupting the government.
All these Democrats are supporting something that doesn't work right. So now the President of the United States was elected president last November because of his negotiating skills. So let's see what happens. Well, there are those 4 Republicans who say, we don't like this thing. I saw Peter Doocy yesterday up on Capitol Hill, and he reported that there are between 8 and 10 Senate Democrats who are willing to sit down and help write and adjust this particular
That's wonderful.
bill.
I hope that happens. Yeah,
So
that's
maybe
great.
that's if their voices are actually heard. Because Elizabeth Warren and other Democrats are basically no negotiation here. This is a disaster. We're going to block it. We're going to obstruct it. I thought it was very nice of the president, though, that he endorsed Nancy Pelosi. That was really
Keep
her around forever.
Keep her around. We don't want to force her out. She's good for the Republicans.
Loves her.
Tweeted about it and also tweeted about crying Chuck. He said Chuck shouldn't leave either.
Now, keep in mind, yesterday, she took the stage and defended herself. We're about to play a little bit of her defending why she should keep the job. But keep in mind, at exactly the same time as she was doing it, a Republican Democrat by the name of Kathleen Rice hosted a strategy meeting in her office with about a dozen Democrats trying to figure out how to squeeze her out. So that was going on while Nancy...
That takes some guts, doesn't it?
No kidding. Yeah. I think she needs a food tester. Anyway, that was going on while Nancy Pelosi was saying this.
You want me to sing my praises? Is that what you're saying? Why should I? Well, I'm a master legislator. I am a strategic, politically astute leader. I am my leadership is recognized by many around the country, and that is why I'm able to attract the support that I do.
Nancy Pelosi is great at raising money for her members. She's great at raising money. She's not good at winning.
And that's why a lot of rank-and-file Democrats are scared of her.
Yep.
They need money to get reelected. Exactly. If she said, hey, I'm going to turn off the spigot, who you got who's going to come up now and raise all this money? That's kept her in power. What's interesting is that while she was projecting that confidence, her aides were privately not so confident. They started sending out suggested tweets for Democrats to send out.
To defend her?
To defend her.
Okay.
There is so much at stake. The health care of millions is on the line. Some want to target the most effective legislator in modern history. Hashtag stand with Nancy.
They did not want you to know that they were sending this out. A New York Times reporter got her hands on one of these emails that Nancy Pelosi staffers are sending out to all of her allies within the House and saying, you know what, you don't even have to, you can just copy and paste this, this tweet. Just put it on your social media accounts. Hashtag
That's when you know you're
Nancy.
in trouble. You're getting a little desperate.
There you go. So that's just a preview of what you're going to see a little later on today. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi, not the only Trump critic unraveling on television. There's over on MSNBC, there's a political analyst by the name of Elise Jordan. She was asked by the host about, these tapes apparently didn't exist between the President of the United States and Mr. Comey. And then she had the soundbite of the day. Listen to this.
It's a sad day when you cannot depend on the president's word. And my advice would just be to Republicans who do cozy up to him. It's just like hugging a suicide bomber. He blows you up in the process with him.
That's a little harsh, and I was proud of
Do you think?
the host, Craig Melvin. he said, that's a little strong, Elise, and she just doubled down. She pushed back, and she said, no, it's like hugging a suicide bomber. What?
Right. Yeah, and we just had Steve Scalise and others shot on a baseball field, and everybody kept saying, we're going to tone down the rhetoric. We're going to reach across the aisle. Everyone needs to calm down. And then look at Johnny Depp and what Hollywood is saying.
Can we bring Trump here? I think he needs help. When was the last time an actor assassinated a president? I want to clarify, I'm not an actor. I lie for a living.
Just like Donald.
However, it's been a while. And maybe it's time.
Extraordinary. So there he is talking about Abraham Lincoln, John Wilkes Booth, and Donald Trump. The Secret Service says we're not going to talk about what we're doing, but we're doing something.
Well, and Elise Jordan, I mean, think about this. In the suicide bombings we've seen, the attacks we've seen throughout Europe, just in the last couple of weeks, to even joke and compare the president to a suicide bomber.
How about what happened a week ago with Steve Scalise getting shot on the baseball field?
Exactly.
It's politically motivated, and for him to say that, he's a mess. Right. He's a wreck, and he's saying that he thinks that the president needs help.
Yeah. Sure. I think they both those comments go into the comments. Stupid things people say.
Right. Send us your comments. Let us know what you think. In the meantime, let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some more headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
It's probably a lot in that category that I don't even know I want to touch right now. It's Friday morning to you guys, to you at home as well. Moments ago, North Korea said it's the biggest victim in Otto Warmbier's death. How so? Officials say they didn't torture Otto, and the United States is waging a smear campaign against them. The 22-year-old died less than 1 week after being released by the Rogue Nation. Hundreds showed up as he was laid to rest yesterday. Otto's younger brother, Austin, remembered him as the most popular kid in the class and someone who was always there for his friends. Meantime, North Korea testing another rocket that the U.S. believes could be part of its program to develop an intercontinental ballistic missile. The New York Times gets a special visitor. The Daily Mail got these pictures of former FBI Director James Comey stopping by their office in Manhattan. He reportedly spent 3 hours inside. The visit comes after he admitted to leaking private conversations he had with the president to the Times. The president revealing he doesn't have any tapes of those conversations, tweeting, quote, with all of the recently reported electronic surveillance, intercepts, unmasking, and illegal leaking of information, I have no idea whether there are tapes or recordings of my conversations with James Comey, but I did not make and do not have any such recordings. So why did he tweet about the tapes? The president will answer that question in 20 minutes. So stay tuned for that one, guys.
All right. Boy, I wonder what James Comey was doing at the New York Times. It's so odd.
Why would he go right in the front door?
I know. He's not even trying to hide.
He's wearing sunglasses at first.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to also get the president's response at 6:30. In the meantime,
President Obama just broke his silence on the Senate health care bill. Didn't like it. What happened to past presidents staying out of politics? That's coming up.
And California just banned state employees from going to these states. Wait until you hear why.
Texas?
You can't go, Steve. Can't go.
I can't go.
Wait, no, you live in New York.
Former President Obama blasting the Senate bill to repeal and replace Obamacare, writing, in part, the Senate bill unveiled today is not a health care bill. It's a massive transfer of wealth from middle-class and poor families to the richest people in America. But what happened to past presidents staying out of partisan politics when they leave office? Here to discuss, former U.S. diplomat Morgan Ortagus. Good morning. Good to have you here.
Good morning, Ed.
Is he really a good judge of whether or not a health bill is going to work when he promised the American people you get to keep your doctor, get to keep your plan?
Well, that's a really good point, Ed. And in fact, if you look at it from a political perspective, in both the 2010 and 2016 elections, his party was decimated in these elections on Obamacare specifically. Almost more than anything else, that's what the Republicans ran on. So I agree with you. The criticism that we saw yesterday of a bill that's still being formed by the House and the Senate was a bit fresh.
Sure. And Morgan, what about the point that Republicans, in fairness, haven't wanted to admit over the last few years that there have been good parts of Obamacare, millions more people being covered, for example. But Democrats have not wanted to admit either that it's cost a whole lot more money and you have all these insurance companies pulling out. So why isn't the former president, in order to protect his legacy, weighing in a more positive way and saying, hey, here's how we fix it?
Well, to your question, I think he's not weighing in a more positive way because he didn't have a lot of big signature accomplishments over his 8 years as president. And two of his biggest accomplishments are things that President Trump is working to undo right away. One is the health care bill and, of course, the Paris Climate Accord. And also, we can't forget about the Iran bill. So these things that President Obama would consider to be major legislative achievements of his 8 years, which I would argue there weren't many, are something within his first 6 months that President Trump is looking to undo, and that's got to sting.
Well, you heard in Ainsley's interview with the president, the exclusive interview, we're going to have more of it in a moment. He said, look, I'd love to reach across the aisle. I'd love to find a way to have a bipartisan compromise here. And Steve was reporting that there's almost a dozen Democrats in the Senate, not in the House, but in the Senate, who are saying, look, let's find some ways to fix this. What are the real prospects, though, in terms of a reality check, of both sides coming here together on a compromise?
Well, unfortunately, I think we were just seeing such a divisive time in Washington that I think that prospect is pretty low. But hopefully President Trump can work to bring more people together. Yeah,
and so what do you think? We've got 30 seconds. What are the two key points that they've got to get done here to get this through the Senate, the Republicans?
Well, I think the Republicans have to be unified on this. We saw at least 4 Republican senators defect yesterday. The Democrats are unified on this. Republicans are not.
All right, we appreciate it. Morgan Ortagus.
Thanks.
Still ahead. More of Ainsley's exclusive interview with President Trump and the First Lady, including something he has not said before about Jim Comey. And more Americans than ever afraid of crowds, thanks in part, yes, to the recent terror attacks. But our next guest, he's not afraid. He says you shouldn't be either. Sergeant Sean Larkin is on deck. Escaped at a maximum security prison? Easy. The guard tower was empty. Guimar Cabrera Hernandez made a run for it, but it was eventually recaptured, thankfully. But USA Today is shedding light that the U.S. Penitentiary Atwater in D.C. instead relies on 3 layers of fencing, and has been for the past 6 years, blaming staffing shortages. Ainsley and Steve.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay, I want to introduce you, Steve and I want to introduce you to Sergeant Sean Larkin. He is an officer in the gang unit of the Tulsa, Oklahoma Police Department, and now he is applying his boots-on-the-ground expertise on the show, on the A&E show called Live PD. It's on Friday and Saturday nights from 9 to midnight, and he joins us now. Hey, Sergeant.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so for the folks at home that haven't watched your show, let's tell them your story. Where'd you grow up? Parents in the military? Tell us a little about how you joined the gang unit.
Yeah, my father's a career military guy. He was in the Navy for 32 years. My mother was in for 20. They actually met when my mom was in boot camp. So I kind of grew up traveling across the country, various military bases. Ultimately, we ended up settling down in the Bay Area. I went through the majority of my schooling there through high school. Actually ended up moving to Oklahoma just to go to college. Had no intention on staying there. Wanted to go back to the West Coast. Sure. And ended up doing my internship there with Tulsa Police Department. I was hired, and 20-plus years later, there I still am.
Look at that. And your growing up actually helped you for this job, because I understand a number of your friends fell into the drug scene, and suddenly, hey, what are you doing?
Correct. Yeah, I actually grew up in the city of San Francisco itself. Graduated from high school in a suburb right outside of it. And just because of my age, I'm 43 years old. I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s through high school.
Crack. Time of crack.
Exactly. And that's what happened. Gang violence, the way, it exploded, crack cocaine, the violence that came along with that. Some of my friends actually got involved in that lifestyle. Wow. And so, I was one of those kids, I was kind of around it, but always made the right decision not to get in trouble. And actually, just after I graduated high school, some of my friends ended up getting themselves in trouble and ultimately went to prison. Ugh. And wow. So I kind of went one way, and some of them went another. Now
you're in the gang unit. You're getting these bad guys and women off the streets. Is that hard for you? Are you arresting your friends?
No. As I said, I moved away from the Bay Area. And you know what's funny, actually, you say my friends, I mean, some of these guys we deal with so often, repeatedly, that they're almost like friends. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys, so to speak, but you develop these relationships with them. It's not necessarily adversarial in nature. You see some of these kids grow up and turn into young men, and
sure.
So you do kind of develop these type of friendship relationships with them.
Because you've been on the streets of Tulsa for a while, and
Correct.
People think, oh, Tulsa's a great town. And it is a beautiful town in the Midwest. But
because of you're getting them off the
streets. That's right.
But just like every other town, there's a problem, and that's what this TV show is about, right?
Well, this TV show, it's basically unfiltered. It is live, and it's showing it's unbiased policing. It's an extension of what is in most police cars these days, which are dashboard cameras, body cameras, and things like that. And it's showing the public, what the officers see as it's happening.
Do you like the idea of body cameras and dashboard cameras?
I do. It's like people, anything to do with change, it's difficult at first, especially in policing. We have ways we like to do things. But it is, I think, more beneficial to us as law enforcement. It shows the full story, not just parts of the story social media likes to spread around.
So 3 hours of live. We've done the ride-alongs as reporters, and there is some lag time. There's some downtime. What do you do? How do you keep the audience entertained during that downtime?
The show, it actually has 6 different geographically and ethnically diverse cities that are on at one time. It's showing small cities, large cities, troopers, deputies, municipalities. And so with the 6 cities, where something might be slow on one spot, it can bounce to another city. And then there's the dialogue that goes on about it as well.
Right. Well, today you're sitting in one of the big cities of the United States of America. There's a new Gallup poll that has come out that says 38% of Americans are less willing to go into places where there are a lot of people in attendance because they're afraid somebody's going to try something stupid, either with a knife or a gun or a bomb or try to run you down.
Yeah, talking about that's the whole point of people doing these type of things, or terrorists, or, whether they're lone wolves or these larger groups. They're trying to alter what we do day in and day out, and we can't let that happen. We still have to live our lives. We can't let them win. We do need to be vigilant, pay attention to what's going on around you. We all have that gut feeling. You see something that's not right, speak up about it. Talk to law enforcement. Contact your Joint Terrorism Task Force, something like that, and pass it on. And I assure you, being in law enforcement, everything that comes in like that, we look into.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to be watching tonight Live PD. Sergeant Sean Larkin, thank you very much for making the trip.
Thank you so much, Sergeant. Thank you for what you do. God bless you. We love our men and women in blue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Coming up next, more of our interview with President Trump and the First Lady, including something that he hasn't said before about James Comey and those tapes.
Oh, I can hardly wait. And speaking of the president, today he will make good on another campaign promise to work on fixing the VA. And when he does, Pete Hegseth will be there. Pete.
The morning. It was a family affair at President Trump's first congressional picnic. The president and the First Lady mingling there with the crowd and shaking hands.
A sweet photo shows Melania giving a baby a kiss right there. Look at how cute is that?
And Ivanka Trump playing with her daughter, swinging her in the rose garden. That's pretty awesome. You know what's really fun?
Slow down, Mommy!
I know.
And on Instagram, Jared Kushner and their young sons Joseph and Theodore were there as well.
They were on the carousel. They brought in a big carousel for the South Lawn. And White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer delivering beer and wine to his good friends. It's wine in a box.
He loves the reporters.
Members of the media.
They all get along.
That's right.
Sean Spicer, beer me right over here.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. President Obama used to always tell us in private that he found that picnic really funny because they'd have all of these Republicans beating him up every day. Then they'd go to the picnic, hey, can you get a picture with my kid? And the same thing happens to President Trump. You have these Democrats blasting him every day, and then they're over there and they all want selfies.
Right. At the core, they're all human beings, and they have good hearts, and they want the best for this country. They might have different opinions about what's best, but
they might be phony about it sometimes too.
Maybe so.
Well, yesterday, just about 4 blocks from where we're sitting right now, somebody realized, hey, who's that really tall guy going in the New York Times?
I've seen him on TV.
Where he's wearing sunglasses. There he is right there. He's holding his coat. He's going in with his wife, and he came out with his wife, and the sunglasses off. It's the former FBI director going into the New York Times building.
Clearly didn't want to hide it. He's going in the front door, not even a back door. He was in there for 3 hours.
Yeah, the New York Times spokesperson said he did not visit the New York Times newsroom. However, there are other businesses in that building. Also, didn't go to the newsroom.
Just doesn't look good. After he admitted to leaking to his friends that work in, his journalist friends, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, now there are reporters for the New York Times, we should say, who are tweeting last night and this morning that there may be a law firm in that building that had some sort of an event for abused children, and that James Comey and his wife may have been visiting them as a charitable thing. They were in there for a couple of hours. Whether they visited more than one office, we simply don't know.
So it would just be a coincidence that he also leaked stuff to somebody who leaked to them.
Yeah, it might
Or
be a
could it be like a Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton thing?
Sure,
where they
well-
talked about grandkids, but they were on the
Golf,
plane for
their
a long
golf
time.
game, all of
He was
that,
in there for 3 hours.
What kind of sunglasses to wear, the White House picnic. You talked about James Comey with the president.
We did. I asked him about the Comey tapes, and we also got to speak to the First Lady. Here's a little bit of our interview yesterday at the White House.
Congratulations, you moved into the White House. How is it?
We are enjoying it very much.
How about Barron with school? Is he
He
settled?
loves it, yes, all settled. He loves it here.
Good. Are you missing New York?
Not really. I'm so busy and we're doing so many great stuff. So it's a really special place.
And
I love
tonight?
it here.
That's wonderful.
Tonight it's a great picnic, congressional picnic with all of us getting together. It's a New York City team and we have carousel and great stuff outside.
Great. Big news today. You said you didn't tape James Comey. Do you want to explain that? Why did you want him to believe that you possibly did that?
Well, I didn't tape him. You never know what's happening when you see that the Obama administration, and perhaps longer than that, was doing all of this unmasking and surveillance, and you read all about it, and I've been reading about it for the last couple of months about the seriousness of and horrible situation with surveillance all over the place. And you've been hearing the word unmasking, a word you probably never heard before. So you never know what's out there. But I didn't tape, and I don't have any tape, and I didn't tape. But when he found out that that there may be tapes out there, whether it's governmental tapes or anything else, and who knows, I think his story may have changed. I mean, you'll have to take a look at that, because then he has to tell what actually took place at the events. And my story didn't change. My story was always a straight story. My story was always the truth. But you'll have to determine for yourself whether or not his story changed. But I did not tape.
It was a smart way to make sure he stayed honest in those hearings.
Well, it wasn't very stupid, I can tell you that. He did admit that what I said was right. And if you look further back before he heard about that, I think maybe he wasn't admitting that. So you'll have to do a little investigative reporting to determine that, but I don't think it'll be that hard.
Robert Mueller, do you think he should recuse himself from this? Because he is good friends with James Comey. He's hired some attorneys that were part of Hillary Clinton's foundation, have given money to President Obama and Hillary Clinton's campaign. Should he recuse himself?
Well, he's very, very good friends with Comey, which is very bothersome, but he's also, we're going to have to see. I mean, we're going to have to see in terms, look, there has been no obstruction, there has been no collusion, there has been leaking by Comey, but there's been no collusion, no obstruction, and virtually everybody agrees to that. So we'll have to see. I can say that the people that have been hired are all Hillary Clinton supporters. Some of them worked for Hillary Clinton. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous if you want to know the truth from that standpoint. But Robert Mueller's an honorable man, and hopefully he'll come up with an honorable solution.
You know, the left is going bonkers over some of those comments in the tweet yesterday, and some of the comments to you, and saying that Donald Trump was trying to intimidate James Comey by suggesting there may be tapes. Look, this is all going to be sorted out by Robert Mueller, special counsel, but what's wrong with saying, hey, you better tell the truth?
Well, but also, remember,
is that intimidation to say, James Comey, I think you should tell the truth about what really happened?
But remember when the Russians went into the Oval Office and then there was some suggestion about what was said, and then Russian media said, hey, you want a transcript? We know exactly what was said in there.
Right.
And I don't think they were rolling a tape that anybody saw.
Right.
So
you know,
who
it was
knows
just
what
saying,
that was about.
It's just saying, just tell the truth. Tell the truth, because Robert Mueller had never said, or James Comey had never said anything about the president not being under investigation until the president says there might be tapes, and then all of a sudden his story changes and he says, you know what, I told him 3 times that he was not under investigation.
And that's all the president wanted,
That's
James
it.
Comey and the others to say, look, you're telling everybody else I'm not under investigation.
Right.
I could get stuff done with my administration. Just tell somebody, would you? Well, now we know, because Comey testified to that.
That's exactly right.
Jillian's got a lot of other headlines.
Great interview.
This morning. Good morning.
That's right. Good morning to you guys. Happy Friday from across the studio over here. How you guys doing?
Good.
All right, so here's what's going on. In protest of what he considers anti-LGBT laws, California's Attorney General is banning travel to 4 new states. That state will no longer use taxpayer money to fund trips to Texas, Alabama, South Dakota, and Kentucky. It already restricts trips to North Carolina, Kansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee for similar reasons. The ban blocks non-essential travel for things like out-of-state conferences and training. States with legalized marijuana are linked to more car crashes. The Highway Loss Data Institute says collisions claims in Colorado, Washington, and Oregon all increased by nearly 3% compared to states without legalized pot. 8 states and Washington, D.C. have legalized recreational marijuana for adults. A Texas man is making a big statement to support the president. Check this out. Kyle Courtney bought an entire billboard slamming ABC News over their coverage of alleged Russian interference in the presidential election. You can see it right there. It says, quote, "I grew up with you. We are through. The Russians didn't elect Donald Trump. I did." Courtney says ABC News has lost touch with America. I don't know the going rate for billboards these days, but I'm just assuming he put out a lot of money for that one, guys.
Not cheap.
I was going to say that was important to him.
He got some publicity on TV, too.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, Jillian, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, it was a promise from the president out on the campaign trail. Remember this?
We're going to fire the corrupt and incompetent VA executive.
Well, today the president's going to make good on that promise, and Pete Hegseth helped write the legislation to fix the VA. He's live from the White House next. Good morning to you, sir.
And he's won 5 Super Bowls, not Pete, but Tom Brady. Can he handle sumo wrestling?
Wait, that's Tom Brady?
Gives it a shot.
Oh, my God.
The one on the other
He's not
side.
wearing the shorts, though.
The guy on the other
He doesn't have
side.
the whole outfit on.